Well, this week is a little different, as you can see. And the title of the message this morning is Under Construction. This week, our facility and our sanctuary is right in the middle of a transformation. It's not what it was last week, but it's not what it's going to be next week. It's in process. 6 months ago, we stood before you and shared with you the vision of this physical transformation of this building. Not simply as an act of beautification, but as a physical outward representation, a picture of a spiritual inward reality. Throughout the Bible, the Lord calls people at different times to do something physically, to do something on the outward that is symbolic, that is a representation of an inward spiritual reality. So he paints pictures, he tells stories, he does things, he says, leave a memorial, make a marker here, do this so that you will remember, that this is something that you will remember. This place is a representation of God's people, of us. Before we continue this morning, Wendy had come up to me as we were giving, and the Lord had given her a word, and she was like, I haven't done this, but I feel like I have to be obedient to the Lord, and I almost forgot, but I want Wendy to share what the Lord had given her.
Oh, sorry. Better? Okay.
Just pull
sorry, yeah,
this
is up.
Pull more over here, and it may be, yeah.
There we go. Is it a little better? Okay, anyway, sorry, this is really new. The last few weeks, I've been feeling the word well up, like it needs to just come out, and I don't quite, it's scary, don't really know how to do that, and it feels like I'm going to speak when I shouldn't. So anyway, I ended up trying to write it all down, and so I think there's more here, but this is what I got down to share. He said, "My children, you are my children, my chosen ones. I have called you for a higher purpose. Today, put your past behind you, your past hurts, bitterness, and anger, for I have prepared new clothes for you. I have filled this place with my life so that you may go out and proclaim my goodness to the world outside these doors. I have given you everything you need, every good gift to fulfill this calling."
Amen. Amen. So she read that to me, and I said, well, I guess I could dismiss right after that, because that's basically the message today. But I'm going to expand on it a little bit. This place is a building, but it's a representation of us. We are, the scripture says, we are the Kehillah. We're the ecclesia, and if a lot of people use the word church. I think I told you a long time ago. I remember going, how did we get the word church? I mean, if you speak Spanish, it works great. Iglesia, ecclesia. I see that. Where did we get church? And so I did some research on it and found out that, of course, back in the day, they would say, we're going to go to the Lord's house. And the Greek word for the Lord's is kurios. And so they would go, we're going to go to, then they just started saying, we're going to go to the Lord's. Like, we're going to go to Cosmo and Rivka's. We're going to go to the Panzettas. We're going to go to the Lord's house. And then in, apparently, German, I don't speak German. You can correct me, but it's like Kirche, right? Kirche. And so that's where the word church came from, Kirche. That's too guttural for me. So we're the Kehillah, which is the Hebrew word for the Holy Assembly of God. That's who we are. It's the Kirche, or the Kehillah, or the ecclesia, is not a building. It's a building of living stones. It's a people. We are his holy assembly. We are his Kehillah. We are his dwelling place. And the Lord is here in our midst, working in us and through us. And what we see in the physical is a picture of what God is doing in the invisible. We are God's dwelling place that is being fitted together. So I've got a few points. I normally preach textual, go right through expositional, right through a passage, but this morning is a little bit different than my normal style. So my first point is this, because I want you to get this picture in your head. weathered, but reclaimed. We are God's dwelling place being fitted together. Look at this beautiful wall, right? Isn't that nice? This last Tuesday night, my wife and I were working as a team. She stood back and had the vision, and I make the cuts and put it where she says to put it. There came one point, because I couldn't see, I'm right up on it, right about over here. She had looked away for a minute, and I kept going without her. And then she looked back, and she went, and I was already past it. And she said, no. There's too many of the same in one spot. I was like, that's fine. No, it's not. No, it's not. And so I undid it. And so she had the perspective to say, here's where you put it. Do this piece, shorter, longer, whatever. And I'm cutting and nailing and up and down the ladder. And then she looked at me and she said, I came down and looked at it and she goes, that's us. That wall, that's us. Diverse, different sizes, different lengths, different shades, different textures. It's not all monolithic. It's not all the same. There are gaps. It's not perfect. It's being fitted together. And part of the beauty of the wall is the diversity of the wall. When there was too much of the same in one spot, that's not what makes it beautiful. It's the variety. It's the diversity. It's all of us being fitted together. Not perfect. That's our congregation. Different. We are different and imperfect, but together as one, we are beautiful. When we are as one. And if one of those boards is missing, like those ones up top, very few people are going to spend time looking at any particular board. But if it's missing, it matters. You take out that little corner sliver right there, that little triangle, and that's missing. That's going to drive somebody crazy. More than her, lots of people. Because that piece may not get a lot of credit, but it matters. It's part of the whole. You're part of the whole. You may not get a lot of, people may not always know everything that you do or how you serve, but we don't do what we do so that people will talk about us. We do what we do so they'll talk about him. Last week, a couple weeks ago, we talked about when Yeshua from among his disciples picked his 12 proteges, and what he did is he picked people who you wouldn't put together. He picked a sellout and a zealot to be in the same small group, and we'd go, I think that seems like it's going to be a little explosive. So why don't we put Matthew and Simon the zealot in different groups? Because I think Simon's going to be really ticked off with Matthew. So we don't need that. We won't really grow. It's going to be uncomfortable. And so the Lord picks and puts together people that you wouldn't put together. And we're all so different. We have such different backgrounds. We are of every tribe and every tongue and every nation. We are Jews. We are non-Jews. We are every kind of religious background, every kind of social and economic status. We're fitted together, being built together. Some of us come from poverty. Some of us come from wealth. Some of us are highly educated. Some not so much. Some have come from depths of abuse that others can't even begin to possibly understand. Others have come from very healthy families. Some have been in prison. Some have ministered in prison. We all come from different backgrounds. But we are being fitted together beautifully. We are a weathered but reclaimed group of people. That's us. That's us. Fitted together. 1 Corinthians 1:24. To those who are called, both Jewish and Greek people, Messiah, the power of God and the wisdom of God. For the foolishness of God is wiser than men, and the weakness of God is stronger than men. For you see your calling, brothers and sisters, that not many of you were wise according to human standards. Not many are powerful. Not many are born well. Yet God chose the foolish things of the world, so he might put to shame the wise. God chose the weak things of the world, so he might put to shame the strong. God chose the lowly and despised things of the world, the things that are as nothing, so he might bring to nothing the things that are, so that no human might boast before God. In Ephesians 2, we went through this passage in our series through Ephesians. It says, then you are no longer strangers to one another, basically. You're no longer strangers and foreigners. Despite your varied backgrounds, you're no longer strangers, but you are fellow citizens with God's people and members of God's household, a family, one unit. You have been built on the foundation made up of the emissaries and the prophets, with Messiah, Yeshua himself, being the cornerstone. In him, the whole building being fitted together is growing into a holy temple for the Lord. In him, you also are being built together into God's dwelling place in the Ruach. You are being built. You know, in our Torah portion from Deuteronomy this morning, I don't know if you noticed, but it said that the king is supposed to be reading God's instructions, copying the instructions every day for all of his life, so that he might become what he's supposed to be, so that he might know God's word. It's not that he's king and he's arrived. He's becoming. We have not arrived, but we are being fitted together. This place is a picture of what God is doing in us. Weathered, reclaimed, fitted together. We are the Kehillah. And so that he might be glorified, he is extending our platform. He's extending our platform. I don't know if you've noticed, but the platform is 4 feet longer. And now up here, I am now 6'1". This is what it looks like. How do you breathe up here? John Woodruff did a tremendous job working hard on this platform. Now listen, this is it's very important. This is not a stage. Repeat after me. This is not a stage. This is a platform. There's a difference. There's a difference. Sometimes we accidentally call it a stage. I won't, but it's not a stage. It's a platform. You say, well, what's the difference? A stage says, look at me. A stage is so I can perform. A stage is so that I can get your applause. A stage is an opportunity for me to get to the center with the spotlight on me. That's what a stage is. A platform is a place that is elevated with a purpose of making a message known. There is a purpose to a platform. So when someone says, think about it, when you hear someone say, I'm so thankful that I was given a platform to be able to to give this message, to talk about this, to share this. A stage, someone says, I was glad I got the stage so I could. I haven't taken tap, but jazz hands, I can do that. The Lord is extending our platform. Not so we can be lifted up, not so people will look at us, but so that as we declare his message, that more will hear it and receive it. I believe the Lord is extending our platform, and we have to walk in obedience as he does with every opportunity. And the message we declare is not look at me. The message we declare is look at him, for there is good news for the afflicted, healing for the hurting, freedom for the captive, sight to the blind. that the old ruins, that passage in Isaiah, how beautiful are the feet of those that bring good news. Tell Jerusalem, tell the ruins of Jerusalem, there's hope, you're new. He's taken we who were ruins and he's made us new. He's made us oaks of righteousness. That's what he's called us to be. He's raised us so that his message can go forward. That's what he's doing. The extended platform is a physical representation of a spiritual reality. He will increase our opportunities to make his truth known. Not just to make it known in word, but to make it known in deed. And it won't always look like what you think a platform should look like. In Acts 25 and 26, Paul was given a platform. It's a platform to speak before King Agrippa, who was the last of the Herodian kings. Paul had been arrested. Paul had been falsely accused. He had been slandered, lied about, his reputation maligned. And rather than becoming something that would crush him, forget it. If everyone's going to say negative stuff about me, I quit. Rather than going into self-pity and being like, you know what, I'm just going to hunker down and focus on me. God, I'm serving you. Why am I in prison so hard? He didn't do that. He said, okay, this opportunity will be an opportunity to make him known. Acts 25:23, it says, on the next day, Agrippa and Bernice came with great pageantry. They entered the audience hall with the commanders and the most prominent men of the city. Then at the order of Festus, Paul was brought in. And then chapter 26, verse 1, Agrippa said to Paul, it is permitted for you to speak for yourself. Paul stretched out his hand and began his defense. Concerning all I am accused of by the Judean leaders, I consider myself fortunate. Concerning all that I'm accused of, I consider myself blessed, fortunate, King Agrippa, that it is before you that I'm about to make my defense today, since you are especially knowledgeable about all the Jewish customs and issues. Therefore, I beg you to listen patiently to me. And Paul proceeds to tell the story of his transformation, of who he was and what the Lord did in his life. Paul takes the opportunity not to defend his reputation, but rather to declare the good news. This platform, this opportunity was not about Paul seeking Paul's name to be lifted up. This was an opportunity to make Yeshua known, to declare the good news. And Paul didn't miss it, and he didn't waste it. He tells this story, and it ends, and when he gets to the end, chapter 26, verse 27, he says, King Agrippa, do you believe the prophets? I know that you believe. Agrippa said to Paul, in a short time, you are trying to persuade me to be a messianic? You are trying to persuade me to be a believer? You think you're going to make me like you in one quick speech? You got to be kidding me. Paul said, whether short or long, I would pray to God that not only you, but also all of you, all who hear my voice today, would be such as I am, minus the chains. That's a platform. A platform was in chains, in accusation, in pain and difficulty, was a platform, what the enemy intended as something to shut down what God was doing, became a platform for the gospel to go forth, for the good news to go forth. And every opportunity, when we have the opportunity to go into self-pity and be like, you know what, it's really hard, forget it, stop it. God is extending in that moment. Know that God is extending your platform. You can use it for your own glory and make it a stage of self-pity, or you can make it a platform to make him known. He's extending our platform. An expanded platform won't always look like you expect it to look. It may start from a place of disaster, only to become the very opportunity to declare the good news. I don't know what every platform will look like, but here's what I know. Every opportunity for you and every opportunity for me is not a stage. It's not an opportunity to say, look at me. I hope I can get my name in lights. It's an opportunity to roll up our sleeves, to show our scars, to show the healing that has been brought, so that others who are bleeding under their sleeves can see that there's hope. I once was, Paul says, but now I am. God is expanding our platform, House of New Beginnings. He's expanding your platform. Wendy, he's expanding your platform. Dawn, Alice, he's expanding your platform. Sonia, he's expanding your platform. Jeff, he's expanding your platform. Chris, he's expanding your platform. All of you, he's expanding your platform. John, he's expanding your platform. This is a picture of what he wants to do in you and through you. He's not done with you. This is just the beginning of what he's going to do. Oh, I don't say much. I don't know what to do. Stop it. Your weakness is where his strength shows up. We're weathered, different. I'm just a small little sliver. You matter. And he's expanding your platform, and he wants to use you and use your gifts. And use in the midst of your hardship for his name to be glorified. He's expanding our platforms. I love Philippians chapter 1. Paul's writing to the congregation at Philippi. I love his perspective. I just love it. Chapter 1, verse 12, he says, now I want you to know, he's in prison, he's in chains. I want you to know that what has happened to me has actually resulted in the advancement of the good news. And so my imprisonment in the cause of Messiah has become well known throughout the whole Praetorian Guard and to everyone else. So all these guards that would have to cycle in to be chained to him for hours at a time. He was like, guess what? You're not going anywhere. So you're going to listen. And I'm going to share with you the good news. He wasn't captive. They were captive, and he was bringing them freedom. He was bringing them freedom. Good news for the captive. You think I'm chained? You're chained. But there's hope. And he says, not just that. Not just what I'm doing, but now that I'm out of the way, because of my imprisonment, most of the brothers and sisters have become confident in the Lord to dare more than ever to speak the message fearlessly. He's expanding your platform, but I just don't know what to do. Well, I tell you what, why don't I just get out of the way? Why don't you just get out of the way and begin to walk in your calling? Tell your story. The love of God flowing forth from your life. He's doing a new thing in us. He's fitting us together. Odd backgrounds made into one beautiful wall. He's expanding our platform. And third, he is cleansing and healing our very foundations. He is cleansing and healing our very foundations. The good news for you, the good news for me, the good news for the afflicted is not that we're going to simply put on clothes over open, bleeding wounds, but that he is making us new from the inside out. He's not just doing a quick paint job, but he's transforming us. If we will submit to him, if we will come to the waters, he will transform us from the inside out. So that I don't just stay the same angry guy that I was with good theology, but I'm still angry and messed up. But that the message is changing me. So many of us we cling to what we know, but what we know we're not allowing to penetrate our hearts and transform us. And God wants to come to the very foundations of who we are and to cleanse us and make us new. It's not just good news that someone offers me heaven, but leaves me the same selfish guy today. The good news is that I can be transformed at the very core and foundation of who I am, and so can you. We're standing today or sitting with our feet on a pretty gross-looking floor. It looked worse. Trust me, the glue in this place was thick. It was like, it felt terrible on shoes. It was gross. It felt like it was disgusting. The old carpet may have looked a little better, but it had been walked on, spilled on. It was gross. We've shampooed it many times. And yet when my kids would run around barefoot in this place, even after a shampooed carpet had dried, they had black feet. Ugh. We couldn't get the dirt out. That old dirty carpet was stuck, glued down with layers that made it so hard to remove. But these floors have been scraped and sanded and scrubbed and swept and mopped and cleansed at the very foundation, and the sticky is gone. There's stuff that's been stuck in your life, hurts and pains that you've clung to and they've clung to you. I was talking to someone this week who was facing pretty scary stuff. He said he'd been hurt by people. I said, well, those people have been hurt by people too. And the people before them were hurt by people. And if you look around the whole room, everybody in here could tell a story of how they were hurt by people. But it ends with you. It ends with you. My father came to the Lord. My father told me that he could remember being, as a kid, being thrown across the room. That ended with him. He came to the Lord, and I don't have those memories. The abuse he experienced, it ended. It didn't become a sob story. It became no more. From here on, I am new. That curse is broken. And what you have, son, will be different. And so I had something he didn't have. And my children, if I choose to walk in the ways that I learned from my father, then my children will have the kind of father that I had. And that they would become that. You don't have to be defined by what was stuck to your life, but he can remove that, cleanse it, quit letting it stick everything to it. Quit hanging on to, well, and you have no idea. Stop and say, cleanse me, Lord. Everything keeps getting stuck to this point. It keeps getting stuck here, Lord. Scrape that. I'm free. I'm new in you. Cleanse me at the very root of who I am. And then do something new, something beautiful, something where people say, that looks totally different. Totally different. The cycle of selfishness ends with me. The cycle of the old stuff ends now. I was talking to a friend some time back and said the cycle of fatherlessness, it ends with you. You'll be there. You say, my dad wasn't here. You'll be there. It ends. So that now he can hold his baby in his arms. It ends. I'm not defined by the glue that was stuck in my life. The generational curse is broken. The Lord wants to set you free and cleanse you at a foundational level and to make you new. And that cleansing isn't always easy, and it's not always quick. And there's a scraping, and there's a sanding, and there's a sweeping, and there's a mopping. But he is at work. And some of us look like this floor. But persevere. He's removed the old junk. He's scraping up the glue, and a new day is coming. You're not who you were, but you're not who you'll be. If you'll endure and let him finish the process. this room isn't good enough. We're not like, well, it looks better than it did last week, so this is fine. It's not done. You're not done. Don't say, well, I'm better than I was, so that's good enough. No. I'm not who I'm going to be. I'm not who I was. But dear Lord, if in 20 years I'm not more than I was at 44, then something's wrong. God, I want to be so unselfish that I'll wonder if 44-year-old me had any idea what selflessness was. I am in process. You are in process. We are not where we're going to be. I got sticky stuff. And it hurts to get it scraped out, but I'm like, Lord, clean it up. Because what you're doing, I trust you. I trust you. I trust what you can see that I can't see. You watch the Chip and Joanna Gaines. Do any of you guys watch that show, the what's it called, Fixer Upper? I remember years ago when 20 years ago we were in Monterey looking at some friends were buying a house. We walked in and it was a disaster, and all I could see was disaster. I had no vision for what could be, but my wife can see. She can see, like, I'm locked in by, if a kitchen is a certain way, I'm like, that's all it'll ever be. I can't see anything past that. Overwhelming. And she's like, no, what we could do is da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and sees a whole nother picture. Sometimes we're stuck. And some of us are like me, where you go, I can't see. I don't understand, Lord, what you're going to do. I don't understand how you're going to do this. I can't see it. But you know what? I've been around you, Lord, long enough. I've been around my wife long enough that if she says something, I'll go, I don't see it. But I trust your vision. I trust your style. Everything you do turns out beautifully. So it really does, every time. And so I go, if you say that's going to look good, I'll trust you on it. I'll just do it. You just tell me where to nail the thing. And that's what with the Lord, to say, Lord, everything. That's where Paul says in Philippians chapter 1. He says, being confident of this very thing, that he who began a good work in you will be faithful to complete it. He always finishes it. God, what are you doing? I don't know, but I trust you that you'll finish it. You'll scrape this up and remove it. We're weeks away from the high holidays. Yom Teruah, the sound of alarm is coming. It's the first day. Yom Teruah is the first day of the 7th month, right? The 7th month is like a Shabbat month. And so we are currently in the month of Elul, which is the 6th month, which is a month of preparation. In the same way that Friday is preparation for Shabbat, so Elul is spiritual preparation for the month of Shabbat, for Tishri. And so it's a month that's characterized by the sounding of the shofar actually every day. It says, Lord, let me hear what you say. Open my ears to hear what you say to me. Search me, know me. See if there's any offensive way within me, and lead me in the way everlasting. It's a month characterized by introspection, and by repentance, because this day of alarm is coming, followed by the day of atonement. I want to be ready. This week, this floor reminds me of a little, Lord, rip off the old stuff, get rid of it. This month of preparation, get rid of every stain, search me, know me, under every crevice, expose and deal with the foundations of me. I'm okay with you exposing my foundations because I know you'll finish it and not leave it a mess. It's, when we started doing some stuff in my house, I've not always had the best track record of finishing projects. So when I started tearing stuff out, my wife was like, oh boy, okay, we've committed to this. I hope we finish. You don't have to wonder with the Lord. When he begins to rip stuff away, he finishes it. He will finish what he started. He always does. Lord, do something beautiful in me. Do something beautiful in me. And then trust his vision. Here's what we do. Can I tell you, I read this illustration a couple years ago. It was the best thing. So I'll pass it on, but I didn't write this. God's like a brilliant artist. And we give him the canvas of our life, and we say, have your way. Paint a masterpiece in me. I surrender. Have your way. And then when he starts painting something, we don't understand what it is. We're like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And then we try to take the marker out of his hand, or the paintbrush, and we start coming with markers. And then we let other people walk by. You're like, hey, you want to draw on my canvas? And then we blame the artist for not being such a great artist because of all the junk we've been slapping on our canvas. You're not so good. Get your hands off and let him do it. You see? Stop letting others paint on your canvas. Let the Lord form you. Almost done. In Ezekiel had been taken into exile. The temple had been destroyed. Before the temple was destroyed, Ezekiel saw a vision of the glory of God being removed because it was just a building. When the glory of God was gone, it was just a building. So he's in exile, and the temple is in rubble, massive rocks. If you've seen the leftover rubble in Jerusalem, those rocks it's amazing they got them up in the first place. Just overwhelming. In chapter 43 of Ezekiel, the Lord gives him a vision of the glory returning. In those several chapters, 41 to 46, there's a picture of the Lord is painting, he's illustrating the temple. He's giving instructions about the dimensions of the temple. He's giving instructions about what the temple that he's forming is going to look like. And he's not describing Zerubbabel's temple, and he's not describing Herod's temple. He's describing a spiritual temple. What is the temple? We are the temple, fitted together, an extended platform to show off not what we have done, but what he has done and what he can do. And he's building a temple, building us, cleansing us at the very foundations, transforming us so that what flows forth from this temple, from us, is transformative and life-giving. What flows forth from the place where God's glory dwells. His glory dwells in us, okay? We are the temple. He says, he sets his throne in our midst. Ezekiel 47, verse 1, then he brought me back to the door of the house. And behold, water was flowing out from under the threshold of the house eastward. For the front of the house faced east. The water was flowing down from under the right side of the house, south of the altar. He brought me out by the way of the north gate and led me around by the way of the outer gate, the way of the gate looking east. Behold, water was trickling out from the right side. When the man went out eastward with a line in his hand, he measured 1,000 cubits, and he led me into the water to the ankles. Again, he measured 1,000 and led me into the water to the knees. Again, he measured 1,000 and he led me into the water up to the waist. Whew, that's cold. Again, he measured 1,000, and now it was a river that I could not pass through, for the water had risen, water to swim in, a river that could not be crossed. He said to me, have you seen this, Son of Man? So here in this vision, you have this water flowing, a river of life really flowing from the throne of God, the place of God's presence. And the river is so clearly a vision of the work of the Holy Spirit. And all of the water, it's all from him. There's ankle-deep water, and it's from him, and it's good, and it's refreshing, and it's of the Lord. But it's minimal, very controlled. I'm very comfortable. When I was a little kid and I was afraid to swim, didn't know how to swim, I'd stay on the step all day long. And I was fine with that. I all day, I'm good. I know that I know I'm not going to drown here. But eventually, the water gets so deep that you can't put your feet on the ground. At that point, you've got to start swimming. At that point, you have to abandon yourself to the flow of the water. Stop trying to fight against it. Stop trying to go in another direction. Swimming means you have to let go and let the flow of that river work in you and operate within the properties of that river. If you fight it, If you don't float, you'll sink. There's a power in that river, and there's a very strong possibility of being able to go with the river. But to let it happen, you have to commit to it. What's flowing from his throne room is more powerful than us. It's more powerful than us. It's not for us to try to control, because it's going exactly where it needs to go. So we need to go with what he's doing. It's life-giving, cleansing, healing river of God that's beyond where I am. It's past where I can wade. It's past where I can walk with the comfort of my own sure footing. The trickle from God's throne room becomes a rushing river. And look where it's going. It says, then he brought me back to the bank of the river. And when I had returned, behold, there were very many trees on one side and on the other along the bank of the river. Then he said to me, these waters go out toward the eastern region. They go down to the Arabah and enter the sea. And when they arrive at the sea, the waters of the sea will flow and will become fresh. And actually what it says is they will become healed. The waters will be healed. The water flowing, a trickle from God's throne room, is now a rushing river moving toward the desert. It's moving toward the Salt Sea. It's moving toward the Dead Sea. East of Jerusalem is the Dead Sea. When you leave Jerusalem, Jerusalem's beautiful, situated beautifully, nicely on top of a hill. A lot of vegetation, plenty of growth. But just outside of Jerusalem, just to the east, it is a desert, like dead desert. But God's doing something new. And there's a river flowing from his throne room into the desert, into a lake, a sea that is defined by its lifelessness. It's the Dead Sea. You don't fish in the Dead Sea. What a waste of time. There's nothing there. It's all dead. A sea defined by death becomes healed. And it will be, verse 9, that every living creature that swarms will live wherever the river goes. There will be a very great multitude of fish because this water goes there and makes the salt water fresh. So everything will be healed and live wherever the river goes. Wherever the river goes, there's life and healing. Wherever the river that flows from the throne room of God goes, there is life. Where there has been stagnation, where there's been death, there's now life and cleansing. Fishermen will stand by it from En-Gedi to En-Glayim. It will be a place for spreading of the nets. Their fish will be of many different kinds, like the fish of the great sea, a huge quantity. Swamps and marshes will not become fresh. They will be set aside for salt. On the river, on its bank, on this side and on that side, will grow every kind of tree for food. Its leaf will not wither, its fruit will not fail. It will bear new fruit every month because its water flows out from the sanctuary. Its fruit will be food and its leaf will be for healing. A river flowing from the place of God's glory through the desert, transforming a place of death into an Eden, growing every type of tree for food. And the fruit, by the way, were the trees. Where are the trees? Where are the trees that are growing from what he's doing? And it says the fruit that is continually being born. Every month there is fruitfulness in these trees. It's not one and done. It's ongoing fruitfulness will bring life and healing. He's making us new, taking us in our weathered, worn condition, reclaiming us, fitting us together. That's us. Just in case you forget, look up and say, pick a board, say, that's me. You got a board on there. And then he's extending our platform so that as he transforms us, we might be transformative. That as we go forth, the body of Messiah, filled with the Spirit, into the desert, that his Spirit would transform lives considered dead and worthless. Go into desert that looks like dead, worthless real estate would be transformed into a garden of fruitfulness. Look around. You're not who you were, and you're not who you will be. He is transforming us into something transformative. Amen?